Good evening, you guys. Your boy Ben Mahari here, representing Mahari Nation Sports Podcast. Much love to the entire LDBC and the basketball community. We are officially at 631 subscribers. I want to thank Ticket TV, Too Raw for TV, LB, 70 Sports TV, Black Fight Fan TV, and Junior the Truth for their contributions of spreading the word about the channel. You know what I mean? This channel is slowly getting bigger, and a lot of people are coming in, leaving comments on there, giving me some positive reviews, or just basically wanted to talk, express their opinions on certain things on my videos, so to relating to basketball. So I appreciate the camaraderie. I appreciate your different perspectives, though, guys. Just remember one thing: anyone that keeps trolling or says some outlandish things, you will be you'll be removed on site and away from my channel, and I will not put up with that. I have a low tolerance of that. All right, but I just wanted to say that thank you to you guys for making it possible. The channel's slowly getting bigger, and sooner or later, when I have at least enough subscribers, I'll start putting in the Cash App and PayPal links if you guys want to donate some money to my channel. All right. So, with that out the way, let's get down to business here, shall we? Um, we're heading down to the final stretch of the Last Dance documentary, and they're going to present more about the 1998 Eastern Conference Finals, which is an antithesis of one of the videos here that I'm displaying here, which is the 1997-98 Indiana Pacers. This team that year was perhaps the most toughest series that the Chicago Bulls had to deal with here, because they've only been to, at least in their championship series, they've only been through, you know, two 7-game series. One in 1992 against the Knicks, and in 1994 against the Knicks when Michael Jordan was retired due to playing baseball. All right, and that Pacer team was perhaps the most toughest team that the Bulls had to deal with here, because they had a lot of familiarity with the Chicago Bulls for a couple of reasons here. Okay, one, the two teams played in the same division, so they met at least 4 times a year, and during that 97-98 season, both of those teams split uh, four of their regular season meetings. The Pacers took two, and the Bulls took two, and each of them took wins on each other's home floor, because there was a lot of familiarity with those teams, because the Pacers were pretty much a team that was led by Antonio and Dale Davis, that were basically their top bangers and enforcers on the team. Okay. You also had Rick Smith, the dunking Dutchman, who basically was a guy that could hit the mid range shot and can post up some and use the pick and pop. You also had Mark Jackson, who's an excellent floor general and great passer. And then obviously you had Reggie Miller, one of the greatest shooters in the history of the game, on your team. Okay. But there was particularly different things about this Pacer team. Okay. Um, this was Larry Bird's first year as head coach. Okay. He decided that he wanted to become a coach, and he decided to coach for his home state team, the Pacers. All right. So Bird made it very clear that he was going to only give 3 years of coaching and then retire. All right. So in this first year as coach of the Pacers, he led them to 58 regular season victories and won Coach of the Year. When he pretty much saw this roster together, obviously with the Davis boys, Miller and Jackson. Okay, you also had uh, Chris Mullin, who was a small forward at this particular point in time. He played all 82 games and averaged at least 11.3 points per game, but he was far from the old Chris Mullin from his Golden State days, when he was averaging at least 23 to 25 points per game as a younger player before the injuries. Okay, so Reggie Miller was their top scorer. He played 81 games and averaged 19.5 points per game. Rick Smits was their second leading scorer, played 73 games and averaged 16.7 points per game, while Chris Mullin was their third leading scorer, averaging 11.3. Okay. Dale Davis was at age 28, played 78 games, and he was not known for his scoring, only averaging 8 points per game. When it came to rebounding, though, he averaged about 7.8 rebounds per game. His backup, Antonio Davis, was a bit of a better scorer, averaging 9.6 points per game and grabbed 6.8 rebounds per game. That was basically backing him up. Okay. You also had Derek McKee, who also was basically used to start as a small forward until Chris Mullin came, and pretty much came off the bench and played 57 games. Okay. But the two big key players on that team were Jalen Rose and Travis Best. And I'm going to explain to you why. Both of those players were basically young, upstart players. All right. Now, Jalen Rose finally got some playing time after basically being stuck on the bench and basically not being able to play because of Larry Brown. Okay. Now, if you listen to Jalen Rose interviews about Larry Brown, he does not have good things to say about Larry Brown, because Larry Brown did not like the fact of how that Mark Jackson got traded to Denver for Jalen Rose, and basically Jalen Rose got caught in the crossfire and basically had to be stuck on the bench, and not getting a lot of playing time. And normally, you know, players like that, at that particular point, when you're a young player, would probably get erupted and probably just get frustrated and just split out the frustration to the media. But Jalen Rose said it best. He stuck it out, came to practice early, and stayed in shape, got ready to play whenever he had a chance to play. And when Larry Bird finally came as coach, he finally got some opportunities to play, because at that time he played at least 20 minutes per game and averaged at least about 9.4 points per game. Travis Best was basically entering his third year in the NBA. Um, Basically, he was very much a small point guard, but very quick and could really beat you off the dribble, and was a very good passer, though, too. He was the kind of guy that created a lot of problems, because he was a quick guard that both Jordan and Pippen did not want to deal with, because they did not like to deal with quicker guards, because they were pretty much too much energy on them. So, with that being said, the Pacers usually go at least 9 to 10 deep, and sometimes Fred Hoiberg would get some playing time, but he didn't play much in that playoffs. Okay, now when those two teams met in the Eastern Conference Finals, there was going to be a lot of familiarity on that team. Now, most of the experts during that time thought that this series was going to end at least from 5 or 6 games in favor of the Bulls, but because they did not know how the Pacers could handle winning a game in the United Center in the playoffs, and it was pretty much a memorable series to say the least. You know what I'm sure the last 2 episodes are going to show are pretty much how tough the Pacers were and how they had to scrap and claw against the Chicago Bulls, because they pretty much survived a 1 point victory to come back to 2-1, and then in Game 4 they were down by 1 point with less than 3 seconds left, and then basically Miller came off the screen, shoved Michael Jordan, and then hit one of the craziest game-winning shots in NBA history to pretty much tie the series at 2 games apiece. But also, Michael had a chance to win the game with 0.7 seconds left on the clock. He caught the ball, double clutch as McKee was trying to block his shot, and the ball hit the backboard and basically rolled around the rim, and it rimmed out. All right, and it was pretty much a 2-2 series. To be honest with you, that series took a lot out of that Chicago Bulls team, because the Pacers really were very, very deep and very versatile in their front line. Because the Bulls, the weakness during that 97-98 years is because they did not have enough big bodies to compete in the boards. Other than Dennis Rodman or Luke Longley, you know what I mean? They had pretty much no one else. Bill Wennington was just known as a shooter, but wasn't a guy that was going to give you post defense or rebounding. Dickie Sippins didn't play much in the playoffs there either, so he had to only play out spot up minutes. All right? So what I remember that Game 7 of that 98 Conference Finals was the Pacers got off to a good start. They were up by 13 points in the first quarter of play, and pretty much almost blew the Bulls out of the building until Dennis Rodman came into the game and pretty much provided energy and rebounding, and pretty much the second unit brought some life into the game and pretty much cut the lead basically from 12 to basically from 13, and then basically we're up by 5. I think I'm just trying to rewatch the game, and then the Pacers started to come back, in the late through the fourth quarter, and almost pulled off the upset. But then Tony Kukoc hit some threes. Pippen made some big, shots down the stretch, and then pretty much the Pacers lost Game 7 by at least 4 points. I should say 5 points. But the reason why the Pacers lost that Game 7 was they gave up way too many offensive boards. Now let me pull up the stats of Game 7. So they lost by 5 points, 88-83. Pretty much in that game, okay. The Pacers pretty much only had 4 offensive rebounds, while the Chicago Bulls, get this, had 22 offensive rebounds. All right. One of the big weaknesses of the Pacers, surprisingly, was that they were not a strong offensive rebounding team, and in their losses, they lost heavily on the offensive glass, and that came back to bite them in the big moment of a game 7. Okay. And when people say that, oh, that game was rigged for the Bulls to win, okay, then why is it that the Pacers didn't finish the job when they were up when they had them on the ropes by 13 in early in the first quarter of play? See, I never understood that, and I never got that. All right. But yeah, the Pacers really took it to the Bulls and really made them work for every game, with the exception of the Game 5 blowout, in which they blew out by at least by 21 points. Pretty much all games 1 through 3, and then games 6 and 7 were pretty much close. All right, and pretty much 5 points was pretty much the spread between those games, with the exception of the Game 5 blowout. All right, so those Pacers, man, they were really much tough game. They pretty much, took it to you, and they played good, honest, physical basketball. But again, they were another great team that pretty much fell short against the greatness of Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. You know what I mean? And that's pretty much what I remember about them. But they did eventually make the finals in 2000, but they were pretty much a shell of themselves, because that 98 Pacers team was a better team than the one that they made to the NBA finals with, and lost to Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant and the Los Angeles Lakers. But yeah, they were one of my favorite teams for the Bulls to compete, and I loved watching them compete for the full 7-game series. It was, to be honest with you, that Game 7 of the 98 Eastern Conference Finals scared me more than any other time in the Bulls' run, because I really thought that the Pacers were going to pull it off. I really thought. And it pretty much almost was validated when they were up by 13, until the Bulls were able to come back and win the game. Okay. So I really enjoyed that 98 series, and I'm sure that a lot of you youngsters are going to enjoy, seeing what that series was like. I'm sure the series is on YouTube, though, so you can pretty much watch games 1 through 7, on YouTube. I have the games pretty much on my flash drive, so I can access it to it anytime I want to, and I might do that later on tonight, just to get a little bit of a better feel of that series, though. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section about the 1997-98 Indiana Pacers, and how tough they were against the Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen Chicago Bulls during that 97-98 season, because they pretty much took them to the limit and almost pulled off the upset. But let me know what you guys think.